Welcome to the Life on Shuffle podcast, a collection of stories about people who have taken chances, embraced the unexpected, and inadvertently discovered their true passion. Today we are featuring John Carlock, a minister, educator, humanitarian from Virginia. For nearly 2 decades, John Carlock dedicated his life to serving children in Gaza through education, compassion, and faith. What began as a one-year teaching assignment in Jerusalem turned into a lifelong mission to build schools, support families, and create hope in the middle of conflict.
I interviewed John during Ramadan in 2026 at the Islamic Center in Morganton, North Carolina. He shares his story of leaving the United States at just 24 years old, learning Arabic, building the Lighthouse School in Gaza, and raising a family between cultures. He reveals the realities of war, identity, sacrifice, and what forced all his hard work to halt in 2023. We hope you enjoy his story and take away the importance of caring for others, taking risks, adapting to change, and standing up for what is right.
John Carlock's story begins in the American Midwest, in Michigan, where he grew up in a family of 5 alongside his brother and sister. His early life was rooted in structure, faith, and education, attending Catholic schools where he was introduced not only to strong academics, but to stories of a distant land that would one day shape his entire life. As a child, the Middle East felt almost mythical to him.
And because it was a Catholic school, of course, we learned the Bible and religion, and we learned a lot about that part of the world. Yeah. And as a child, it was just fascinating. It was like a world away. You know, you read about this culture and the language, and it just had an otherworldly feel. So I think that was put in me at an early age, and a appreciation for education.
Mm-hmm. Something fascinating but far removed from anything he imagined for himself. At the time, his ambitions were simple and familiar. He recalls thinking he might follow in his father's footsteps.
I knew what I wanted to do. I thought I was going to follow in my father's footsteps and sell insurance. And, you know, at the time, I just wanted to make a lot of money and live the good life and buy a big house.
And see, that's what everybody was.
Exactly. Yeah. And when I got older, I realized that's empty. Yeah. That there's not a whole lot in that. Mm-hmm. And if you can serve other people, you know, and that's part of my faith, and that's part of Islam as well, is you serve the poor, right? You take care of the people that are oppressed and hurting. Yeah. And of course, in that part of the world, there's a lot of hurting people and a need for education. Yeah.
Discovering instead a deeper pull towards serving others, something rooted in his faith and strengthened by a growing awareness of the struggles people faced around the world. That shift in perspective would ultimately lead him somewhere unexpected. At just 24 years old, after being laid off from a factory job that had been supporting him through college, John made a decision that would change everything. He traveled to East Jerusalem to volunteer as a teacher, despite having no prior classroom experience. What began as a 1-year commitment quickly became something much more.
That was amazing. I had no experience in a classroom, no experience teaching. It was a private school, and they had lesson plans and curriculum books and everything that made it very easy. And there were good teachers and administration that taught me. And so I taught a fifth grade class. I've 10-year-old boys and girls from East Jerusalem and Ramallah in the West Bank, Muslim, Christian. Some, their English was very good, and it was an English curriculum. So they learned Arabic like 1 hour a day, but the rest of the curriculum was in English. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I struggled through that as a teacher, but I loved it. I loved the people. I loved the culture, loved the food.
Teaching 5th grade students from diverse backgrounds, Muslim and Christian, local and international, he found himself deeply connected not only to the work, but to the people, the culture, and the rhythm of life there.
It was a 1-year assignment, and it turned into a lifetime, really. Yeah, it turned into a lifetime career, if you want to call it that. It's a calling. And I kind of feel like God leads you in a direction if you're open. Yeah. And it's not necessarily something that you would have chosen at the beginning, but when you look back, you say, wow, that's amazing.
Yeah. Oh, wow. During his time in Jerusalem, John's life took another unexpected turn. He met his wife. Their relationship unfolded quickly and unconventionally. In fact, he recalls with a mix of humor and disbelief.
And Marcia, she's my wife, she came that second year in the middle of the year, and we were engaged on our first date. Because
You guys get engaged on your first date?
we got in March. I had to go and get permission from the director of the school if I could take her out to a restaurant. And I proposed on Jabal Zaytun, overlooking Jerusalem, the Haram al-Sharif, overlooking the dome. And we were married in July.
Despite the odds, their marriage endured, and more than 3 decades later, they remained together, a testament to a life built on faith, risk, and commitment. Together, they chose not just to live in the region, but to fully immerse themselves in it. They moved to Bethlehem to learn Arabic and better understand the culture, stepping outside of the
English-American bubble
they initially lived in. It was during this time that John began to feel a deeper need, especially in Gaza, where overcrowding and poverty left many children without access to quality education. What started as an idea became a mission. Partnering with local communities, John helped build a school from the ground up, what would eventually become known as the Lighthouse or Menara School. The goal was simple but powerful: to serve children who had been overlooked, those at risk of falling through cracks. The school provided not just education but stability, offering transportation, meals, uniforms, and a safe environment for learning. At its core, there were 3 guiding principles.
You're loved, you're safe, you're free.
In a place often marked by instability and hardship, these words became the foundation of everything they built.
God always provided. There was always funds to pay the salaries. We were able to pay our teachers. So, yeah, it makes you feel good. And other people would come. It was called the Lighthouse School, Al-Menara. Al-Menara, Madrasa al-Menara. And they would say, this really is a light. And what we desired to do, we told the children 3 things. These were our values. You are loved, you're safe, and you're free. And it's the 3 things in Gaza you don't find. There's such large families and there's such violence. And it's not that the Palestinians were bad, and it was the pressure of the economic situation, the political situation, the violence in Gaza. But when they came to Menara School, they're loved.
And they don't feel that pressure.
They didn't. And you're safe. So you're secure here. You're not going to be beaten by the teacher. Nobody's going to hit you. And you're free. You're free to be the person that God created you to be. You're loved, you're safe, you're free. We just drilled that into our teachers. And when those kids left 6th grade and went to other schools and realized the difference between that school and the way that they were raised, they would come back and say, you know, at Menara School, we knew that you loved us. We knew that you cared about us. It was beautiful. It was beautiful. And it's like, not every child is going to get an A. They're not all going to get the greatest grades. But if they get a C or if they get a D, if they do the best they can, and they're in that atmosphere, you're in a healthy atmosphere to grow spiritually, emotionally, psychologically, mentally, then whatever you do in your life, you may not be the best at it, but you do the best that you can. And there's honor in that. And so we just saw children thrive in a very unhealthy environment. Yeah.
Over time, the school grew from just 67 students to more than 400, supported by a dedicated staff of local teachers and community members. John himself stepped into a leadership role, helping direct the project while relying heavily on the people around him. Reflecting on its growth, he says humbly,
it's one of those, you realize this is beyond I didn't do this. I did not do this, and I couldn't do this. I think if you have a faith in God and you put your trust in Him and He's leading you, then doors start to open and things start to happen.
Instead, he credits faith and the collective effort of the community for what the school became. For 19 years, the school changed lives. Children who once lacked opportunity went on to pursue higher education and meaningful careers. But perhaps more importantly, they left with confidence, dignity, and a sense of worth. Still, the journey was not without cost. While John poured himself into the mission, his family faced their own challenges. His children, raised between cultures and countries, often struggled with identity and stability.
That was a big challenge.
Yeah.
That was a big challenge. And I would say this. I had an idea, I had a vision, and I was very focused. I didn't neglect my family, but I realized afterwards, after the school is going, after we come back to the problems that my children were facing now because of what they experienced in Gaza that I didn't realize, I didn't see. I'm focused on, and again, it's not like I neglected them, but like my oldest son, from kindergarten to high school, he was in 13 schools in his life. 13. Private, homeschool, public school, Arab school. I mean, just there was no stability in his life.
Yeah.
And I just looked at it like, this is our life. This is what we're doing. This is what God's called me to do. And so we're going to do this. And you don't realize until later, wow, I can't believe I put my kids back. And they're doing well now.
Yeah.
But it was very hard for the family. Yeah.
He admits reflecting on the unintended consequences of a life constantly in motion. Though his children have since found their footing, he acknowledges the difficulty of those years with honesty and humility. Then, in 2023, everything changed. On October 7th, 2023, the militant group Hamas launched coordinated attacks from the Gaza Strip into southern Israel. Thousands of rockets were fired as armed militants crossed the border and attacked towns, military bases, and a music festival. During the attacks, civilians and soldiers were killed, injured, and taken hostage. The attack was one of the deadliest days in Israel's history. In response, Israel declared war on Hamas and launched a military campaign in Gaza. The conflict escalated rapidly, resulting in widespread destruction, displacement, and a humanitarian crisis in Gaza and the surrounding region. After nearly 2 decades of work, the war in Gaza brought the school's operation to a halt. Buildings remained, but the system, the heart of the school, was gone.
Everything we built and
It's destroyed.
the buildings are there, but the system is destroyed.
Oh.
You can have buildings, but the buildings aren't the school, right?
Yeah.
And there's no civil infrastructure, electricity, sewage. There's no law. There's no order. Kids are afraid. There's no security. You just can't continue. So the last time we were there was November. We were there for a month, and we did everything we could to get into Gaza, and we're never able to.
Infrastructure collapsed, and the environment that once allowed children to learn and grow disappeared almost overnight. Even now, John and his wife continue to stay connected from afar, working tirelessly to support their staff and community.
And from here, we continue to try to get the school open again. We haven't been able to, but that's our desire. And we hope one day we can be back on the ground, in Gaza.
Though they have not yet been able to return, their hope remains firmly rooted in the possibility of rebuilding.
We haven't forgotten. So 2.5 years later, we're doing everything we can to come alongside and help.
In the meantime, John serves as a minister in the United States, traveling to support churches and communities in need. But no matter where he is, the lessons from his years abroad continue to shape him. His experiences have given him a profound appreciation for people across cultures and backgrounds. He challenges the tendency to label or judge others, recognizing instead the shared humanity beneath those differences. We asked John,
How has your whole experiences in the Middle East and all that you have saw changed you as the person you are today?
Yeah, that's well, it's huge change. Yeah. Probably a deeper appreciation for difference. You can look at people that are different from you and you can judge them, or you can look at people that are different than you and you can appreciate that difference. There's cultures are different, languages are different, values are different. But in the end, if we believe we're all created from the same God, we all come from the same source, right? And we're all going back to the same source. And in the middle, it shouldn't be war and violence and hatred and strife. It should be love and peace and compassion. And I think that's probably, I'm not there yet, but the stereotypes and the labels that we tend to put on people that are different or don't think different. I mean, even in America, if you're Democrat or Republican, or you like this president or you don't like, or you're Christian or whatever, we put a label on people and then we expect them to be a certain way. And that's just not the reality. I mean, not every Christian or Muslim or American or Chinese or whatever, it's the same. And it's not fair to, yeah.
What is one advice you would give to anybody, honestly, who wants to travel, who wants to become a pastor, who wants to just see the world?
You know, here's the advice I'd give. There is more inside of you than you can imagine. And God can do, if you're open and willing, it's not your ability, it's your availability. If you will make yourself available in faith, if you would have looked at me when I was early 20s, I would have been the last person to do everything that I just couldn't do it. But there is more that God has put in us that a lot of times because of fear or whatever else, or people tell us you can't do that, or you'll never do that, or the reality is there is real potential. The dreams and the visions that he puts inside of you.
That you don't see.
Well, sometimes you see it, but you don't follow them because people don't encourage you to, or you're discouraged, or there are a number of excuses that we come up with why it can't be, or you don't see it because we don't see the end from the beginning. Yeah. I would say there is more inside of you and in the people around you than you realize. And if you make yourself available to God and let him lead you, he can take you places you never dreamed, and you're going to do things that you never thought possible.
Because when you choose to step forward, despite fear, despite doubt, you may find yourself somewhere you never expected. And as John puts it,
you're going to do things that you never thought possible, and you're going to look back in your life and say, it's not the way I planned it. But boy, it sure did turn out good.
Thank you to John for taking the time to share his story about resilience, humanity, and the belief that even in the hardest and darkest places, people can still be the light. Today's episode was recorded in the spring of 2026. This episode was produced and recorded by Mackenzee, Maya, and Kylie.